Hey everyone, I'm Luke and Derek, and these are my co-hosts Scott and Stokely, and this is Outside the Circle with Luke and Derek, with
Yes.
Scott Stokely sitting in on, I don't know what his role is,
God.
co-hosting. How about that?
Top billing.
What's
Perfect.
up, guys? How you doing?
Doing well.
Doing awesome. Awesome. I mean, I guess so you're in the UK right now, right?
Yeah, you can tell I'm losing weight because the food's kind of bland here.
So the UK it's notorious for kind of dreary weather, but what's the weather like right now?
Oh my God, it's been terrible. So I just played the Welsh Open. Um, Wales is notorious for having really, really bad weather. All 4 days, well, practice day, 3 tournament days, it was 70 degrees and blue skies and sunny. It's like the first 4 sunny days of the year followed me in. So I'm taking the credit for it.
As you should.
So it is May, and it is, as we speak, it's snowing outside. So there's that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was every single day it was supposed to rain the next day. It was like 90% chance of rain. And then I wake up in the morning, it's down to like 7%, and then it's blue skies. So yeah, it was the Welsh Open is just a fantastic experience. It's this private course called Gary. It's just like they've got a clubhouse, a pro shop, they've got places to camp on site. God, it was amazing experience. So, yeah, I love Wales. Yay, go Wales.
Okay, how'd you do?
I did my highest rated tournament in years. I shot over 3 rounds. I shot 1035 rated, which I don't think I've had a 1035 full tournament. I know I didn't last year. I got up close to 1030, I think. But 1035 was the highest. I was bogey free with 10 holes to go in the tournament. And I was trying so hard to have a bogey free tournament. And then I ended up having 2 bogeys at the end. But other than that, yeah, I'm playing the best golf I have in years. I feel so good. Actually, my last 3 tournaments, 9 rounds, my worst rated round in my past 9 rounds is 1021. So I've been super consistent, although my highest rate is like 1043. So I haven't like blown up with any DGPT quality, competitive rounds, but real consistent. So yeah, I'm super happy.
Right. You're not shooting a 1101 rated 17 down like James Conrad at
Shout
Jonesboro
out
over the
James
weekend.
Conrad, man. He showed
James
up.
Conrad he's so good. They're all good.
Yeah.
So
Like
something
every
about
one of them
James
is good.
Conrad is like
What?
something about James Conrad is he's not up in the mix all the time, but he just does these amazing things.
Makes
He
history.
just makes history. That's all he does. I mean, 2-time
Yeah,
major winner, the shot at Worlds, and now a 17 under, and no wins in between any of those.
Yeah, James is great. And he's such a great guy too.
Yeah.
Like everyone likes him. He's a sweet kid. And yeah, everything. I'll tell you a quick funny story about. So when he won the USDGC, I was just coming back to the sport. This is just okay because I'm older and I was gone a while. These connections to the newer game mean a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so 13 years gone, I come back. James Conrad wins the USDGC, and I'm like, well, I don't know this guy, but he's a friend on Facebook. So I sent him a message. I don't know if it was 2015, 16, somewhere around there, but I sent him a message and I said, hey, just want to say congratulations. Good job, whatever. I would love to meet you someday. And he wrote back and he says, oh, we met. You're the first pro whose autograph I ever got.
Really?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And like, I just felt that was when I came back after being gone for so long. That was maybe my first connection to the modern game. I'm like, wow, I'm Nate Sexton came to my clinic when he was 15 years old. And so did Barsby came to a clinic when he was 11 years old. And I started finding all these players when they were younger had met me or came to my clinics. And so, yeah, that stuff means a lot to me.
That's awesome.
Heck yeah. So you got a little shout out on GK Pro on one of their segments. They were doing Disc Golf Jeopardy, and you were actually the answer to one of the clues. It was it what PDGA Pro once held Guinness records for both backhand and forehand? And the answer was Scott Stokely.
Everyone knows that. That
I
one
know,
was
but it was
easy.
kind of cool to see. Just
no, of course it's cool. Are you kidding? That's fantastic.
And I love trivia. So
I got an amazingly funny story from the tournament here in Wales.
All right.
So in addition to being like blown away, the connection to the sport, like I am still mesmerized by how much the sport has grown, and it's turning into this, well, not turning into, it's become this real thing. And top players are like actual celebrities now. I mean, we're not, like movie stars, but we're not playing in obscurity the way I did for so long. And so things keep happening where I'm just like, damn, this is disc golf. So I'm here in the UK, and I get asked today by a member of parliament. He asked me if I would visit him at the House of Commons because he wants to give me a tour, me and Adriana, give us a tour of the House of Commons and of Parliament. And then we're going to probably do lunch after.
That's awesome.
That is really cool.
Is that like the most bizarre? I'm like, I play Frisbee golf.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is so weird. Oh, and then he tells me, by the way, he says the big coronation over here is happening like the next day. He says, so the royal carriage will be parked in front of the House of Commons while you're there. They'll be preparing for the coronation.
What the heck? That's
while
awesome.
I'm giving you a tour. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. This is like, I'm positive I'm living in a simulation. It's my simulation. Like, this is not happening.
Are they going to allow you to go live during it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to do what?
Are they going to allow you to go live during it and just phone up?
Oh my
God.
You're
taking your
I'll
tour?
Be taking a ton of selfies. Well, I'm going to be bringing in golf discs. So I was talking to the member of parliament. I mean, the conversation was all about how much disc golf can bring to a community in terms of tournaments bringing in revenue. Mm-hmm. And I was explaining how, this many players brings in this much money. $50,000 came into Wales from outside of Wales from just a tournament. But when tournaments get bigger and there's, we're talking millions of dollars, at a DGPT event when you have thousands of spectators coming and spending money. And he was really excited about that because, as he said, there are a lot of communities in the UK, which, this goes for anywhere in the world, but there's a lot of communities where this is a needed thing. A weekend that brings in a bunch of tourist dollars benefits the community. And it's like, well, guess what? Disc golf will do that. Y'all need to get courses in. Y'all need to get more tournaments. So, that was what the conversation was about. It's also what we'll talk about when I get to go tour the House of Commons. Aside from all the selfie pictures with the royalty that I'll be brushing up against, hopefully, I'll be talking disc golf with people in the government. I don't know. This is just tripping me out. I don't know how to explain it. It's just crazy.
What kind of scene do they have there over in the UK? Do they have like a leading body, like really leading the charge in these tournaments, or is it still very grassroots?
Oh, absolutely. Well, they got the British Disc Golf Association. They have Ace Disc Golf. They have other people that are just putting courses in the ground and promoting the game. Derek Robbins has been here forever promoting. It's basically like disc golf is or was in the U.S. in the 90s. It's catching on. It's taking off. Every single tournament is bigger than the one the previous year. But there's still, people at your work that haven't heard of it. So there's still that level of anonymity. Basically, this is what I've told them out here is that they're close to hitting critical mass, because right now it's still approaching the park and saying we want to put in disc golf, and the park says, well, what's disc golf and how is it going to impact the environment and how is it going to affect the neighbors that want to do other things in the park like walk and picnic, and what do you need from us, what's it going to cost? Like, that's the way disc golf was forever in the US until this point of critical mass, when all of a sudden parks started contacting the manufacturers saying, we would love to have disc golf in our park. We want to order the baskets. Do you have someone that designs courses that can come out? But there was a tipping point, and I'm not sure when it was, but there was a before and after the public acceptance of our sport in the U.S. and the UK, New Zealand, Australia, Germany. Like, there's a lot of places that are kind of right at the cusp of that happening. It's already happened in Sweden, Norway, Estonia, Finland, and other places, Iceland. So they're there. They're right on the fringe. But yeah, it's amazing out here.
Do you think
except for the food? I'm so sorry, UK. The food is awful.
I mean, compared to Japan, I mean, it's like,
yeah, beans on toast.
It's just bland. Okay, I'll tell you how bland the food is out here. I kind of feel like I'm just crapping all over the UK. I love you guys. But the food. So we stopped at like an ice cream parlor. It's been open since 1922. On the way we're driving, we're going to go to Stonehenge tomorrow because that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But we pull off the highway to this ice cream parlor. We pull up and there's a line out the door. We're like, okay, this is going to be great. Any ice cream parlor with a line out the door, like, has the bomb ice cream, right? And so we get in line and we wait and we get to the counter. They have one soft serve vanilla machine, and I got a sundae and they put some soft serve in a cup and poured chocolate syrup on it. That was the thing that was. There was a line of people out the door because there was syrup on soft serve vanilla.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
So I wonder.
I'm a connoisseur of ice cream. That's not good.
That's true, but they would be appalled at our deep fried ice cream with a Twinkie center that we have here in America. So I'm sure that's they're like, oh, we're trying to be purists with ice cream while we go outrageous over here.
No, I don't think it's being purist. I think it's being vanilla.
Being vanilla and a little bit of chocolate.
Pun definitely.
With a little bit of chocolate or maybe some nuts on top. Yeah, no, but other than the food, everything's been perfect out here. I'm looking forward to our next tournaments in Birmingham next weekend after I go rub elbows with the royal family.
He's going to come on next week. He's going to be wearing a crown and have a staff.
He's going to be knighted.
He's like, turns out I'm their king now.
We'll have to address him as Sir Scott Stokely.
Sir Scott
Oh my
Stokely.
gosh. That's a great idea. I'll see what I can do.
That'd be pretty awesome. That'd be pretty awesome. I think he'd be the first knight ever in disc golf.
At this point in the sport, there's nothing that would surprise me anymore. Nothing surprises me. I mean, even this was kind of like, I looked over at Adriana and I said, are you surprised? And actually what she said was, I'm not surprised, but I'm still enjoying all this stuff that's happening, because the minute I stop enjoying it, that's ridiculously dumb.
Right.
Because it's just weird stuff is happening because of where the sport's at. I don't know. My mind is just blown every time.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. When do you think there was that switch? So you're talking about the before time and the after time of acceptance of our sport. I see it as
when I was gone.
Oh, really?
Oh, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
Because I mean, obviously, no doubt you've been in the sport a lot longer than I have. But even when I started watching, it was still very fringe, and it was still very related to hippie culture, where it's I mean, there's still a little bit of that, but anybody that said, oh, you play disc golf, you also probably go and smoke weed too, don't you? They didn't think of it as something that you could actually train for and be a sport until about COVID. That's when people's I just took it up because I had to be outside. And then they realized what kind of sport that was actually going on. They had preconceived notions of it that were obliterated once they actually started playing it. And then that's when you started seeing the DGPT was still young. It was I guess 2016 was their first year, but their COVID year was the first one with Jeff Spring running the show and having the full-blown broadcast. But it was also the first year you start seeing them at ESPN. It almost seems during that boom of disc golf that happened during COVID, it actually got more acceptance during that, at least from what I seen during that time.
Yeah, I think it definitely blew up during COVID. I think I feel like it happened before then. I was gone from 2001 to 2014, and when I after I had left, I didn't pay attention to the sport at all. It was like too hard to even just watch it. And when I came back in 2014, it was not the same game as far as everything. It's not that it's not more accepted now, of course it is, but the big shift happened, or maybe it's just because like I was gone for 14 years or 13 years. It's like you don't notice your kids getting bigger if you're there all the time, but
Right.
if you're gone for enough time, you'll see the difference. So that, I mean, I could have a biased opinion because of that, but just by the time I left, you were still having to explain to your boss what disc golf was before asking for time off. And when if he gave you time off, he'd be like, and his answer would be like, all right, well, you can have time off, and don't worry, you don't have to tell me what you're actually going to be doing.
Yeah, right.
And when I came back, it's like everyone's kind of heard of it, and it had changed. It's a beautiful thing.
What was probably the biggest difference you've seen from when you left to when you came back? As in, not necessarily, I would say the way that people played the game. What did you see was probably the most dramatic difference?
I mean, so everybody had good technique. Everybody threw far.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when I stopped playing in 2001, I threw 100 feet farther sidearms than anyone else on tour, maybe more.
Right.
I threw 100 feet further backhands than the people out on tour. There were some distance throwers that were competitive with me and Christian Sounds. I mean, I'm not saying they weren't good golfers, but I mean, among like top touring players, it was just a different world, how far I threw. But that's not because I'm special. It's because I was the only one who was doing these things that now everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got to this point sooner. And when I came back, everybody threw far. Everybody had a sidearm. That was a huge difference. The women's game was probably the biggest jump in the sport. Even when I left, women didn't play disc golf. And if they did, it's because their boyfriends or husbands played. And I'm not saying every single one by any stretch. I'm just saying as a rule, that's kind of what you saw. And when I came back in 2014, you would just see women out playing disc golf because it's a fun sport, and they would just be out there playing. And that was mind blowing to me because you didn't see that before. I mean, a couple places like in Des Moines, there were some places that had little pockets of like women's golf taking off. But when you come back, it's just like, okay, women play too. And they were good. But they've gotten so much better in just the last 10 years. It's ridiculous.
Right.
But
yeah. You kind of
that was
missed the
probably the biggest
emergence. You kind of missed the emergence of Paige Pierce, who started touring in 2011. Like, you came back 3 years into her touring when she was, still fairly dominant. Like, she was, I wouldn't say she hit her stride yet, but she was dominant in the women's division, and it must have been a really weird contrast to come back to.
When I came back, there were four. When I came back, there were 4 women, and then it dropped off. Because it was Katrina and Paige, but it was also Sarah Hokum and Valerie was still playing. And so they were going to finish top 4 when they went to a tournament. And it was just which one of them was going to emerge. That's about when I came back. And it was a great rivalry, but the field was 4 players deep. I mean,
right.
I always feel like I'm crapping on like really good players that were outside of that. And I don't mean it that way at all, but I think there was a gap. That gap is closed. Well, Kristen's kind of taken off and created her own little gap, I would say. But after Kristen, there's now like 40 women that could win a tournament on a given weekend. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Kat Merch being one of those women.
Yeah. Yeah. Kat Merch
with her first Elite Series Pro Tour win. Shout out, Kat Merch.
Yeah. By the way, be honest. Did you guys cry when you watched it?
No.
I mean, I felt a little, something. I'm not emotionless, but like it yeah. It didn't make me cry, but I was happy for her.
Yeah, I was mad stoked for her. Like,
okay,
you could tell that.
Okay, well then I won't admit to crying either. I'm just gonna say when this show was about to start and I was watching it, I got something in my eye.
I do
No,
think
I
she's one of the more
cried. I
charismatic.
cried.
She is the Maddie
Yeah,
O
no,
of
I cried
FPO.
when she won.
She is the Maddie O of
Maddie O
FPO.
of FPO.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
absolutely.
very
She is
charismatic.
so
Even
charismatic.
even during the post round interview, she had that bottle of sparkling cider. I don't know if it's actually wine. And she's guzzling it as Brian Earhart's asking her questions. Like, I like that. I
Her
like
impression
different
of
personalities like
Macho
that.
Man Randy Savage during the
Yep.
press conference, that was hilarious. If you didn't get a chance to catch that,
Well, I just love watching people achieve their goals and their dreams, and
Mhm.
like I cry openly when I see it. By the way, I don't cry over sad things. Like
Right. Yeah.
like when Old Yeller died, I didn't cry. I'm sorry. I don't cry during those things. What I get emotional for is when people achieve goals and achieve dreams like that. That's what does it for me. So yeah, I cried when Cat won.
So I'm gonna take it back a little bit because you were talking about how before you left, like you were throwing sidearms, forehands 100 feet farther than anyone. I want to ask you, what do you think the importance of the sidearm is on tour today? And I have a little bit of anecdotal evidence that, like, at face value, seems like it's not as important because you have Isaac Robinson winning the Champions Cup, no forehand. You have James Conrad shooting 17 down at Jonesboro, no forehand. You have Eagle McMahon making a run for first with a limited forehand because he can't throw it.
James Conrad definitely threw more than one forehand at Jonesboro.
But let's be honest, it was not a forehand. It was like a little chop pitch, but with not an elite forehand. How
I've
about
seen
that?
him throw more forehands in this season than I ever have ever. So,
Right.
and I'll
But
leave it at that.
predominantly backhand. So what do you think is it a matter of course design isn't setting up for the long forehand, the elite forehand, or is it not as important? Oh, did you lose the audio?
I can't hear a thing.
Oh man.
Well,
Check.
let's just give it a minute because it went well for a minute.
Right. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay, now it's good. Now it's good again.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. How far did you get in that question?
So I think we got your full question, so I could
Okay.
answer the question.
Yeah. Feel free.
Okay. So yes, 100%, absolutely, positively, it's important to have a sidearm. There's no question at all. You are a better player if you have it. You can take a player like James Conrad, who is, I mean, we all know how great James is without the sidearm. And there are holes on the Disc Golf Pro Tour where I will make, on average, better shots than James Conrad. He is 20 ratings points higher than me. But there are holes where my sidearm is far better than any player in the world's backhand, possibly by a lot. Even to a point where there are shots where the right-handed sidearm is forced to make a sharp enough right turn angle that you cannot physically throw a disc right-handed with clockwise spin, which is a backhand, and make that turn. So that there are shots where it is at a competitive disadvantage to not have the shot. And when a player has 3, 4, 5, 6 holes in a round where they're throwing a harder shot, when they succeed, it's because they are overcoming doing something that is more challenging. That's just a fact. You know, there's like I don't care how good your Anheuser is, my sidearm Heiser is better. And that's not because I am better than those players. It's because it's a mathematical thing. The basic idea is simple. When you're trying to execute a shot, you're trying to gauge distance, height, speed, angle, all these factors. And every single one of them has a range miss. And, you know, like if you throw a little bit too hard, a little bit too soft, the disc goes too far or too short. The same holds true with angle. Well, because all discs effectively fade at the end of their flight, it means that when you throw a right-handed Heiser, you do not have to be as precise with the angle. when you throw an anhyzer, it's just because the disc fades, it's the physics of the disc. It creates a much larger margin for error on that anhyzer. So what it means is when I throw, let's say all things being equal, you and I are equal skilled, and I'm throwing a hyzer and you're throwing an anhyzer. When I miss my angle by 5 degrees, I'm 20 feet away. When you miss your anhyzer angle by 5 degrees, you're 30 feet away. Same exact error, but the mathematics and the physics of the disc lead to a worse shot for you because of the anhyzer angle versus the hyzer angle. So it's not subjective. It's not an opinion. Now, what is an opinion is that that you have to have a sidearm. That's not actually accurate. You need to be able to spin the disc both directions. That's all it's about. If you could throw a backhand with both hands equally well, you don't need a sidearm off a tee pad. I mean, once in a while in the woods, it comes in handy. But off the tee pad, you would be just fine. The problem is that 99.something% of players out there will learn a sidearm with their dominant hand that is better than a backhand with their non-dominant hand. So it's not about throwing sidearm. It's about choosing the best option for reversing the spin of the disc. And when somebody wins without a sidearm, it's super impressive. It's amazing. I mean, hats off to them, but they're doing something harder. There are shots where the sidearm makes the shot easier. For sure, 100%.
So, do you think that course designers aren't designing enough for an elite forehand, or are the players that are getting by without it just so elite at throwing that backhand that they can get by, or is it a mixture of both?
No, so it's not that. It's that when you the percentages between two players of high skill levels at a different skill level is razor thin. So you have one player throwing the backhand, and let's say they're equal skill level, but one doesn't have a sidearm. Well, that backhand gives you a 60% chance of getting inside the circle, but the sidearm gives you a 64% chance inside the circle. Okay, well, those numbers allow for people to succeed in a 3 or 4 round tournament for sure, because it's not a massive difference per hole. But at the end of a tournament, it accounts for something. It's not nothing, but it's not that it's so much different that you can't compete without the sidearm. It's just you're throwing a 60% chance of success on a hole that maybe would be a 65% chance of success. Now, I could design a course easily where you could not win with just the backhand. If I design 18 holes where the disc went out and then stalled and made a 45-degree right turn, like, it would be impossible to play without a sidearm. But there aren't many of those holes. And by the way, even if there is one of those holes, well, then the backhand player gets a par, the sidearm player birdies it a third of the time. Well, that's still only one stroke over 3 rounds. So you're losing strokes, but it's not that you can't make those up. But it's just basically it's like having more power. Well, does more power make you win? No. Can you have medium power and be successful? Yes. But there are holes where having more power is an advantage on those holes. It's better to have power than not.
Right.
So yeah, you want
How
to have every shot in the game.
how do you feel about if course designers started designing holes that were for those quote unquote abnormal shots where it's like the only line is like a sidearm roller or anything like that where it's a specific shot to get there? How would you feel about course designers starting to design holes like that, testing every possible throw that the pros could do on the pro tour?
So okay, so this is totally subjective, but I like holes that don't have a lot of options where you're being forced to throw a shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of players, they like it when there's a bunch of different routes to choose from and shots to throw. But I think a lot of that is they feel like, well, then I can throw shots that I'm good at. But as a competitive player, I like the idea of being forced to throw a certain shot, even if a shot I suck at, which a lot of the woods courses are like that. A lot of times on a wooded course, there's one way to get to the hole. There's not a second option. Well, that is what that is. It's about shaping shots,
Right.
and making it work. And you guys know, everyone knows, you put a course out on a ball golf course where a power player can just throw 14 or 15 big hyzers. That's not really a test of all the skills. It's a very good test of one particular skill,
Right.
but doesn't test everything. So
That's fair.
I personally like it. And then, by the way, I'm not a complete player. I have weaknesses in my game, and so I'm not a hypocrite. I mean, I step up to holes and I'm like, damn, I'm not good at this shot. But that's my fault. It's not the other players who are good at that shot fault that I can't do that shot. They should have an advantage over me if there's a shot that I am not as good at as them. I shouldn't
Right.
be able to just have a workaround every single time.
Well, speaking on course design, what did you think of the Dick Side of Heaven course at Jonesboro this weekend?
So that's a fantastic course. I mean, it's I loved Jonesboro last year. Funny story, I played it. Uh, 2 days before the tournament, I was actually in the hospital. I got let out of the hospital to go to Jonesboro for the tournament, and was not in shape, and it was my worst finish of the year. But it's a well designed course. It's on a great piece of property. Uh, it's a private course, so it's one of those great places, like a lot of the courses, I guess now. But we have the whole facility to ourselves. Um, I know people were talking about it being soft, and I don't think saying a course is soft or isn't soft is really subjective. I mean, it's kind of like, what score is your definition of soft? I mean, like, in my opinion, any course where players are shooting double digits is a pretty soft course. I think that to me, a par should be in that 1,000 to 1,020 range, and 5 to 6 should be hot. And then when someone drops an 8, it should be like, holy crap, like that was amazing. Um, by the way, it doesn't mean it's a bad course if you're scoring more, but then
Right.
what if you have the definition soft, well, that would automatically mean that it has to apply to some percentage of touring courses, or else why have a word? And so it's the softest of that sample size. So I'd say, honestly, any course that's double digits is a softer course, but that doesn't mean it's not a great course.
Right. Like
Not every course has to like be Northwoods Black. Not every course
damn it.
has to murder you when you throw like two bad shots. So like, I'm totally okay with the occasional soft course too. It's a great course. Jonesboro's wonderful.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up Northwoods Black because that's, aside from the fact that we can't get coverage on half the holes, it's one of my favorite courses on tour because it's such a hard course that you only see a handful. Like if you shoot 8 under on Northwoods Black, you probably gained 4 or 5 strokes on people because it's that hard of a course. So, and not to mention that it's wooded
Northwoods,
golf.
yeah. No, so here's what Northwoods Black to me is the best wooded course I have ever played. I don't even know if I would have a second course in the conversation for me. Um, I mean, there's a number of courses that are in the group of best courses, but I mean, just strictly wooded course, I love Northwoods Black. And the thing about Northwoods Black that is so great is that it has these very well-defined fairways. Okay, so it's not a luck course. You have the shots you need to throw, but most of the par fours or fives, they zigzag down the fairway, meaning you have to hit a landing zone and then make a turn up to the target. So you might have to throw 400 feet through the woods and then turn almost 90 degrees to the left, another like 300 feet to the hole. But that fairway to the hole is only, let's say, 15 meters wide, which means your landing zone, when you throw the 400-foot hole, if you hit the gap on that 400-foot drive, if you are 10 meters shy or 10 meters long of where you were aiming, you don't have a shot to the target, even if you're in the fairway. So you actually have to hit your fairway, but then also properly gauge the distance. Because if you hit the fairway, but you just go a little bit long and push into the woods long, or you come up a little bit short, you're pitching back out into the fairway again. So it's just like, it's brutal. And a lot of the wooded courses, really good wooded courses, they have their par fours, but you're also kind of just almost throwing as hard as you can down the fairway, and it pushes as far as it goes until it hits something, and then you look for your approach shot. Northwoods makes you play position golf every single time. It's extremely frustrating.
Yeah,
To be
I
honest.
think one of my favorite things about it is you start seeing players shape shots in a different way. It's not just
Yeah.
shaping the shot of the flight, like, okay, well, I need to hyzer flip it, get it to turn, I want it to fade here. Now they're thinking like, I need to get this to land in such a way where I don't get the skip because my landing zone is so specific. And I find that really interesting. It's one of my favorite aspects of wood golf anyway, is not being able to play the
Mhm.
skip always, but it's even more apparent at Northwoods Black because that landing zone is so specific there.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, it's perfect. There's not a bad hole out there. It's so hard. If you shoot par, like because of these challenges, there's not really a hole out there that you're going to be upset over a par,
Right.
because every single hole, like you could you could bogey. Like there's not a player in the world that isn't capable of bogeying every single hole out there, and not because they screwed up, but because they just weren't perfect. So it's that
It's a
to
good
me
way to
is
look
like I
at it for
love that.
sure. It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So on the broadcast during the Jonesboro Open, and this is not to disparage Nate Dawson in any way, but it was the one who said this. He was talking about the naysayers saying that Jonesboro was a soft course. The last day we had easily 20-mile-an-hour winds, gusting 30, 35. So obviously scores were down. Nate Doss had exclaimed that, like, all these people saying that this was a soft course. We'll look at the scores today. Well, obviously the scores are going to be down when it's, inclement weather. So
35-mile-an-hour wind gust.
back on the whole, discussion of soft courses, when do we judge when a course has teeth or not? Because Jonesboro has a lack of OB, but usually it is pretty windy out there. This year, we just happen to have 2 days of no wind at all, which got scores to 12, 13 down. James is 17 down. So at what point do you weigh the toughness of the course based on weather?
Yeah, I don't think that would. That's a completely separate category, isn't it? Like, I mean, there's not a course in the world in 40-mile-an-hour winds that's even playable.
Right.
So, like, that is weather. And Nate. I mean, Nate's. I like everybody. I always, every time you bring someone up, I'm like, oh, they're the best. Well, Nate Dawes he's awesome. And you can't argue with him when he says it's not soft, because that's just a subjective opinion.
Right.
I mean, you could have, if someone could say that, in my opinion, if anyone in the field breaks par, that course is soft, and they're not wrong, because it's just their opinion. I would disagree with it, but like it's valid. But you know, 20-mile-an-hour winds is really hard.
Yeah.
That is really, really, really difficult golf to play in. So, uh, yeah, I mean, like I said, my opinion, if people are shooting double digits, it would be a softer course, but that doesn't mean it's a bad course or that it needs to be changed. I would
Right.
just say, hey, that's one of the softer courses. But soft doesn't mean bad. I
It's
mean,
fair.
if a course is fair, if it's challenging, if it's fair, I mean, a soft course is still challenging. I mean, an MA1 player is still shooting over par out there.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing. It's not like that course is easy.
I mean,
I
yeah.
think last year, I mean, I came out of the hospital, but I believe I was shooting in the par range, which was like 980 or 990 or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm
So
whenever someone
kicked
says a
my butt.
course is soft, I don't expect like, oh, it's so soft, I'll go out there and shoot. Like, I know that's not going to happen. I mean, especially the way I've been playing lately. But like, I mean, we do hold Elite Series events and courses to a certain standard. So when people say it's soft, they're just basing it off like other courses on the Elite Series. But you gotta take the course for what it is. I mean, you're not playing against other players; you're playing against the course. So
Yeah,
take what's in front of you.
for sure.
But I mean, people have opinions. That's why we have this show, because we get to get on here every week and ask you anything. And I heard a rumor that a certain subreddit wanted to ask you anything.
Oh
You
my
want to tell us
God.
about that?
Yeah. Okay. So apparently there's this subreddit called Disc Golf Circle Jerks or something like that. I never go there. I would never read a page like that. From what I heard, they're terribly offensive, and everybody knows me. If there's one
Atrocious.
thing I believe in, it's political correctness, and you should never offend anybody. And I'll even take this a step further. There's nothing worse than putting negative comments about public figures on the internet, because we have feelings. You don't want to hurt our feel goods. So that's what this Circle Jerks place is all about. These guys are just, they're the worst. But I heard, because I haven't been going to the page for the past 3 years. What I've heard is that they want to do an AMA with me, a Reddit Ask Me Anything. It sounds utterly terrifying, to be totally honest with you.
I'd be shaking.
Oh my God. But you know what? I was thinking about it. Yeah, I'd be willing to do it. I'd be willing to do an AMA and put it on the subreddit and let these deviants ask me anything.
These
And
heathens.
hopefully these heathens, and maybe you guys can read the questions. And by the way, filter out all the potty words, because I've got very sensitive. I don't want to get triggered. So I got very sensitive ears. You got to protect my feel goods. But if you guys are willing to do that, I would be willing to do an AMA under one condition, because I want the Circle Jerks to do something for me. I want to be on Bert's podcast, Bert Kreitzer. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to get me on the podcast, but there's a lot of very creative people I've heard. Not that I go there.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, there's some very creative people in Disc Golf Circle Jerks. And I think if they pool together and just worked as a team and let Bert know that he needs to have me on his podcast, as long as they were willing to kind of try to do that, I would be willing to do an AMA. And yes, that does mean exactly what it says. Nothing off limits. Ask me anything. And I will give you very soft, sensitive, caring, loving answers that will offend nobody because of my political correctness stance. I don't want to trigger any of the people in the Circle Jerks.
We love it. We love it. You heard it here first, y'all.
I imagine the questions are gonna sound like, "Dear Mr. Stokely, if you could." Oh, it's not gonna play through. I have a censorship button. It was gonna bleep. Won't play through on here. Dang it. Oh well.
I'm willing to take him on. Everything. Give me your best shot. I can take it.
Yeah, we'll make sure we can censor some of those questions for you too, for sure.
That's annoying that it
No,
I don't want joke.
You don't have to censor any questions. That's the thing. This is going to go into one place directly to subreddit. So there's no censoring on the AMA. And I'll tell you guys in advance, there's no questions they can ask that you are going to filter for me.
Perfect.
If they ask it, I will
answer. We're asking it.
Man.
Yep, I'm willing to go toe-to-toe with the jerks.
Yeah, let's send it.
All right, well, this week we don't have any events.
No, we don't have a tournament this weekend.
Because everyone's heading to the West Coast. Now, I know you've spent a lot of time on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking forward to most about the Elite Series coming to the West Coast this year? Maybe certain players attacking certain courses or a change in course. I don't know if OTB changed their course. I think so. I heard they were, but
maybe. I could be wrong.
I won't get into that. But what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I didn't find it to be as big of a difference as they like everyone last year was talking about how when you get out to the West Coast, all the courses are so long. And, I got sick. I missed Portland because I got sick. But it sounds like the recurring theme of the year.
Yeah.
But the OTB was long, but I didn't I didn't feel like there was anything unfair or like it wasn't like silly length. So I didn't find it was much difference. Like I wouldn't have like chosen a different, uh, if I was in a disc golf pool, I wouldn't have picked a different group of players out there. So honestly, I don't think it makes a difference. I think they have a week off, but I'm looking forward to all of it. I like watching these kids play. They're really really good. I admire them. Except when I'm competing against them, then I'm not admiring them. I'm trying to beat them. But
Yeah.
when I'm
It's like
not
this guy.
competing against them, I look up to all of them.
We're buds 6 days a week, but when it comes to Thursday night league nights, man, I'll rip his jugular out.
Yeah, he admires me so much every other day. But
I've said this before. One of the most annoying things about the tour that really just drives me crazy is that God, I hate to even dispel any fantasies people have about what happens on tour
throw
by
shade.
saying
Let's
this.
hear it.
All right. So when people ask me, they're like, and they ask me all the time, they're like, come on, give us the dirty gossip on tour. Like who hates each other and who like, tell us the behind the scenes stuff. And my answer is like, everyone kind of likes each other and everybody's nice to each other. And like, there's so much less drama than I think probably in any other sport in the world. And like even if there's two players that kind of like maybe maybe they have different personalities, but if you're shooting around with them and they're on your card, it's not uncomfortable. Like they're still high-fiving each other, nice shot, like there's no drama. And like it's wonderful. Like it's the way it should be. Everybody's so professional. They're all good kids. It doesn't make for good stories.
Right.
I'm sorry, the stories for the old days were a little bit better. But yeah, everybody's kind of nice and everybody kind of likes each other. And that's just one of those, it's just one of those things that I think would surprise people. There's no real drama out there. Like I never saw an argument at a tournament. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I last year I didn't even see a single person mad at somebody else, or like you hear someone bitching about someone. I didn't see it once.
Yeah, well, it's all on Twitter now, so
Yeah.
it's not in
Is
real
it?
life anymore. I mean, not really. I
Yeah.
mean, there was that drama with Paul and Brody last year, but I mean, they just don't deal with each other while they're on tour. But other than that, they take shots every once in a while on Twitter, and then that's it.
Yeah, I mean, think about that though. I mean, like I'm like I'm from the 70s. Like there's nothing more harmless than like tweeting about somebody.
Oh yeah, for
Like
sure.
like I mean that's like, oh, I'm gonna get that person back for like doing this horrible thing to me. I'm gonna unfriend them or something.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Block
That is like,
showed you.
yeah, game set match me. No, I mean, come on. That is like no one's getting punched in the face. There's no one screaming at each other. It's just one of those things. Like
Yet.
everyone kind of just likes each other, and I mean that in the best possible way. It's just a pleasant, positive experience. Just there's the best stories don't come out of that. It's like when I wrote my book, Growing Up Disc Golf, my autobiography. I had great stories about a lot of players, but I didn't have a single good story about like a really nice, well-adjusted player that was probably raised by two parents in a healthy,
Yeah.
non-alcoholic home. Like great people, boring stories.
Can they get that book on scottstokely.net?
They can get that book on scottstokely.net. They can also take my 6-month online Become a Complete Disc Golfer at scottstokely.net. Actually, in a couple weeks, we're going to be starting the backhand portion. If you remember, I'm the guy who had the world distance record backhand a couple times. I'm 53 years old. I still throw. Honestly, if I get a hold of one, I can still get ballpark of 600 feet with my backhand, and I am 100% injury free, pain free. So, I mean, and by the way, that has nothing to do with my ability to teach, but it's like it's a kind of a, I don't know. I think it's
means you're teaching the right way.
I can endorse my own approach.
Means you're teaching the right way.
I don't get hurt. Yeah, so that's the best thing I got going right now. It's ScottStokely.net. I got a couple other huge announcements. I'll have one for us on the next show. There's
Exclusive.
an exclusive. It's a huge announcement next show for sure. Even bigger than that whole circle jerks thing.
We're coming for you, circle jerks.
We're coming, brother.
We just start a whole WWF
cat
style
merch impression.
promo.
It's my cat merch impression.
That was one of
Oh
the
my
best
God.
things about the broadcast was Terry bringing up like the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan. I'm like, this is the best broadcast ever, just because of all those
And
references.
she just rode that character too, bro.
Yeah,
She just
That is so
kept with it.
dated, though. My God.
That's
That's like
still
when someone
good.
makes like that's like when someone makes a porn reference and they're like, like in porn when the pizza delivery driver comes over and has the and I'm like,
right,
yeah, like in 1985.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
where have you been the last 30 years of internet? Anyways, not that I would know, but I'm just saying.
None of us would have no idea.
I mean, you'd be
I have no idea.
surprised. You'd be surprised how many times I say, "Well, let me tell you something, brother," just in my normal everyday life. It's astounding, honestly, how many times I use it. All
That's
the
fair.
time.
That's fair.
Hey,
I
I
grew
went
up
to,
on
by the
that.
way, I went to go see pro wrestling twice in Japan. I went to New Japan Pro Wrestling and I went to Dragon Gate Wrestling.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, wrestling is like got a very rich history in Japan, and
Yep.
it's a beautiful art form, and especially out there. So, yeah, I like my wrestling.
I trained to be a professional wrestler for 6 months when I was 16 years old. So, just saying,
Are you serious?
I can take a bump.
Hold on a second. Do you know that I wrestle, right?
No, I did not know that.
Oh my God, I could do a reaction video. No, I'm a heel manager that takes bumps. When I met
Yes.
Adriana, one of the first things I showed her was my back with an outline of a steel chair on it. I took 7 steel chair shots in a match. Well, I even took one to the head, but I blocked it a little bit, but I still took it.
Yeah.
No, I love pro wrestling. It's white trash performance art, and
It's great.
I'm all about. I am all about it. So the only reason I stopped is because of COVID.
Oh, really? What organization were you working with?
Oh God, Colorado Springs Wrestling.
Okay.
The first one was the first match I ever had was in Indiana. Wow, I'm actually drawing a blank now, but I'll send you guys a link to the match. I got chokeslammed by a 6'7", 400-pound monster, and it hurts as bad as it looks.
Do you cut promos as a manager?
That's why I'm the manager. Oh, I will save this for as soon as we get off the air. I'll share a couple stories. I can't share them on the air because people that don't follow wrestling won't understand what trying to get heat is, and they won't understand the art of the promos that I cut. But yeah, they were pretty awful.
Well, would you be interested in crafting a promo right now for the Circle Jerks?
Oh my God, crafting a promo right now. I think I just did.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I wanted to hear full heel Scott Stokely just draw heat from the Circle Jerks. That's what I wanted.
No, I don't want heat for the Circle Jerks. Those guys are mean. I wanted to like me.
I don't want
those guys are. Like, I don't want to be on their bad side. Please be nice to me. No, you can be as mean as you want. I'll be honest. I love going to the page. I think it's hilarious. There's nothing funnier when they're shitting all over me. I just think it's the funniest thing ever. I've laughed out loud every single time. I think it's a great page. Or I just made all that up and I find it terribly offensive and
never know.
It's kayfabe. You could be kayfabe right now. We don't know.
You don't know. No, proper pro wrestling is if you blur the line between, where you like, it's kayfabe, but it's believable.
Yeah, it's like, your personality at 11.
It's a word. Yeah, so we'll let people guess whether or not I'm triggered by circle jerks or not. By the way, you realize we just gave them far more airtime than they've ever had before. So
right, yeah.
Don't blame me. Yeah, don't.
Hopefully, we won't catch the heat. Hopefully we won't
Yeah,
catch the heat.
don't blame us if you go to the page and get offended, by the way.
So
Don't send me an angry email.
some more pro wrestling terminology. We're just giving them a push, and then we're gonna go over at the AMA.
Oh no, we're absolutely going over. No, for sure. They don't stand a chance.
Oh man, I'm so happy I could just say pro wrestling stuff now. It's my favorite. I
Oh my
use it
God, yeah.
in my everyday life. Like whenever someone gets excited, I'm like, yeah, he popped. It's just a thing.
Yeah. No, I love being a heel manager because I love making an entire room full of people hate me, and I get to be horrible, which I'm not. But
Right, yeah.
that's why it's fun. That is absolutely like I love getting a reaction. Um, Always, I'm a big fan of kayfabe, and a lot of the small promotions are. A lot of them, like me and the Cowboy James Barrett, we never mingled with the audience. We never signed autographs. We never we never broke at an event because I think that takes the fun away from the people there. When the heel comes out and signs autograph during intermission, I find it offensive
Right, yeah.
because you're taking away the fun of the customer. So like I had someone go up to one of the promoters, one of the bookers that we were working with, and he said, and this is the most flattering thing ever. He goes up to him and he says, "Man, everybody's there." Like he's like, "Man, everybody's so nice here, but that Scott Stokely guy, that's the biggest asshole I've ever met. Like, why would you even let him like work with you guys?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, he believed
Yes.
me."
Yeah, it's like the greatest compliment.
Oh, it's the greatest compliment in the entire world. They were so like, I was so like happy. Like I made him. By the way, I'll give you a quick story. This is the first time I learned not to do this. Was at my very first match ever, which was God, I can't remember the name of it. It was um, God, it wasn't Iron Gate. That was in Pueblo. But anyways, it was after the match. I was a heel. After the match, we get to the back. I'm in the dressing room, and the short the short of it is I basically this is a union town, and I went out there and I cut a couple promos at two different times on the mic where I was crapping all over unions, and there was a bunch of kids in the audience, and I was telling them like how awful their dads were, but at least they got a real hero to look up for, a professional athlete, and
Yes.
their dad he's a loser because it's a union job. I mean, everything I can say to make everybody just hate me, right? Which is the job of a heel pro wrestler. If you're watching, I don't believe
Yeah.
any of this stuff.
Very $1 million
But so anyways,
man.
yeah. So after the show, we're sitting in the back and about to say goodbye to everybody. I'm like, all right, everybody. And the booker says, yeah, you need to have a seat. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, there's 3 or 4 guys out of your car in the parking lot waiting to beat the crap out of you.
Oh crap.
And I was like, oh my God, I was so excited, right? Because this is like this is like Midnight Express stuff, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is old school territory heat, where they're actually, and I'm like, that is so cool. And I sat in the back and I waited there for a while, and eventually they told me I could leave, right? So I was walking out, and I'm walking by, and there's this dad with his kid there, right? And it's one of the union guys and his kid. And I'm like, oh no, here we go. Like I thought I was gonna get like confronted, right? And as I walked by, I said, hey guys, and the kid, and I smiled. The kid looks up at me, he goes, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to smile at me. And he gets mad at me for being that. So the kid was, the kid understood that I just took the fun away by being nice to him. And I'm like, okay, so the fans want it too. The fans also want real. The fans want kayfabe.
Yeah.
I really think they do. And ever since then, I was like, I'll never break again at an event. And I never have. Yeah, I love it. By the way, I hope we probably just lost our entire audience here.
Yeah, that's fine. This would be the last bit of terminology that I'm going to use. I'm going to give you the hot tag. We're going to go home to take it home to the finish. Why don't you tell us where you're going to be next weekend and plug anything you want?
Okay, so next weekend, you mean after I go to the House of Commons
The House
with
of
a member of Parliament?
Yes.
No, I got 7 more clinics in the UK, and I got 3 tournaments in the UK. I'm going to be in Birmingham, up and around London, Manchester. I'm going to go up to Glasgow for the Scottish Open. I will be playing another world's longest disc golf hole, the ones I keep having to like re-break my record for the longest hole. The 3 previous ones, I did one 10.6 miles down a beach, and then someone played a longer hole, so then I made up a hole across Death Valley, and then someone played a longer hole, so then I made up a hole across Tasmania. Not across Tasmania, but like 11 and something miles, and then someone broke that record. So we're going to the Highlands of Scotland. And I'm going to play the world's longest hole in Scotland. And I was told it's almost certainly going to rain the whole time because it's Scotland.
Right. Yeah.
But that'll be fun. So, yeah, that's it. I mean, just around the UK is going to be where we're going to be.
Can you just put your disc on the back of a sheep and then, slap it on the rear end and just let it run with it?
Oh, God. Yeah. Probably could. I don't know anything that'll get me out of the rain. I don't know. There's a place called the Isle of Skye. If we can go to the Isle of Skye, I would love to go up there because it just looks like something out of a movie set. But it's kind of really far north too. I'm not sure we'll have time, but maybe. But that's it. That's it. So basically, I'm going to be around the UK. Then I'm going to be in Europe, and then come September, I'm either going to come back to the US to do some business, or Spain, or back to Japan.
Heck yeah.
A quick US pit stop, perhaps?
I might. There's a huge project I'm going to be launching in about 4 months in the US that I can't talk about. We'll be announcing it, so it's the biggest thing I've ever done in business and disc golf. Hands down, by far. It's a massive project. If the timing's right and enough things are in place, I need to go shoot a month's worth of video around it. But if it's not, then I'll wait. So I don't know. I can't disclose.
Awesome sauce.
Awesome. Do you want to do our plugs?
Sure. Yeah. You can find us at C1 in the Morning. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Send us the tweets. You can find us on all of your favorite streaming services, as I completely butcher that one. Yeah, find us in the description. You know where to get at us. Appreciate the pleasure of having Scott Stokely with us this week, and you already know what it is.
You mean having Luke and Derek with you?
Yes, having Luke and Derek with us. Thank you.
Yeah. Tune in next week when we break down WrestleMania 17. Just kidding. Come back next week. We'll discuss whatever's going on in the disc golf world on Outside the Circle. See you, Scott.
WrestleMania 17, worst WrestleMania ever.
Oh, that's gonna cause some heat.
All right, I know.
All right.
Thanks,
See you,
everyone.
Scott.
Bud.
Thanks.